In Zimbabwe, everyone who is above the age of 18, according to the constitution, have the right to contest, to actually get into the election process. They can either choose their member of parliament, they can choose local authorities, they can even choose who goes into the presidium. Several elections have been held before, and we have seen several results since independence. According to the Zimbabwe Electoral Commission, voter registration here in Matabeleland has been so low in the country's 10 provinces. Hello and welcome to tonight's episode of Pre-Register Vote, a program that is brought to us by the National Movement of Catholic Students in partnership with Conrad Administrative Tang. Tonight I'm joined by a lovely panel which includes William Mpangani, who is from the National Movement of Catholic Students. He's also the region president here in Bulawayo. Hello William and welcome to the episode.
Hi, thank you so much.
Thank you. I'm also joined by Zenzele Ndebele, a media practitioner from Side Zimbabwe. Hi Zenzele and welcome.
Hi.
I also have Stelisile Mnguni, who is from the National Youth Development Trust here in Bulawayo. Hi Stelisile. And I also have Ndonda Nandlovu, who is from the Zimbabwe Election Support Network here in Bulawayo. Hi.
Hi, hello.
So this talk has been, over the years, been discussed, voter apathy here in Matabeleland province, the Bulawayo Metropolitan Province, and we would want to draw more on what has been going on. My name is Rachel Nerira, and please feel free to be joining us in this discussion. We also have with us a live audience who will be tuning in to the program. So maybe to start this discussion, we want to know why we're having voter apathy here in Bulawayo. Maybe I start with you, Ndodana, since you have been working with the Election Support Network.
Reasons, and quite a number of them are very personal, because participating in elections comes from an individual, although everyone is encouraged to participate and the Constitution encourages that. But we realize that registering to vote, voting and voting itself is an optional activity. So in Matabeleland, what I can say is that generally there is that attitude of saying, oh, vote and right, meaning voting doesn't bring food on the table, voting doesn't help, voting doesn't assist, especially when we look at the young persons in Zimbabwe in particular, whom we always cry about. There are very few that are registered to vote. Some of them, quite a number of them, cry over the issue of ID cards. Remember, when you are supposed to register to vote, you need to have an identity card, and there are quite a number of the young persons, or even the older ones, here in Matabeleland, have a problem with those documentations due to a number of historic reasons that I may not finish listing. But generally, the electoral process itself has not brought in an incentive that people might feel like going to register to vote and vote, because they will tell you what will I vote for.
All right. Maybe coming to you, Ste, you have been working with the young people. What are their reasons? Why are they not going to register and vote? And maybe why are they not participating in the electoral process?
Oh, okay. Thank you for the question. Dotane has touched on most of those reasons, but what we realize is that some of them they're not in touch with the benefits of registering to vote. Because obviously, for us to preach about, go out and register to vote, there are benefits to it, but then you realize that, young people are not aware of the benefits of registering to vote, So that's why you realize that when we approach them, you're encouraging them, no, you have to participate actively in the electoral. but they keep asking, like, why am I even registering to vote? So I think we really have to get into that space of, conscientizing them about why they need to register to vote. So, yeah.
All right. I want to get a perspective of everyone who is in the room. So I'll also ask Zenzele, as a writer, someone who's been digging out information around what are the people saying in terms of the reasons why they're not going out to register and vote?
Well, I think the reasons are not different from what the other comrades have said. But I think young people are fed up because the same process happens every year and it doesn't change their lives. But I also sometimes blame the opposition because every election people come out and say, there was rigging. And then if there's rigging this year, there's rigging next year, why would a young person bother to go and vote or vote when at the end of the day elections are going to be rigged? And also we have a population that is young people. They are either getting a passport, applying for a visa, or waiting to go somewhere, and everyone tells themselves that I don't have to register to vote because by the time elections are here I won't be around. So you find that everyone is mobile, everyone wants to go somewhere, everyone wishes to go somewhere. So voting becomes one of those things that are done by old retired people who have nowhere to go and nothing to do.
Mm-hmm. William, you have been running the social media streets and also you're on the ground as a young person here in Bulawayo Metropolitan Province. Why are not people going to register to vote?
I would believe that people become involved when they feel that they belong. If everything is happening outside of Bulawayo, outside of Matabeleland, why would they feel like participating in a process that does not really affect them? Because we constantly see that opportunities and any nice thing, if you were to a young person, you look at it and you see it being done in Mashonaland. And then you find yourself being asked now to register to vote. You are being asked to participate. What are you participating in? What is the benefit of the participation? So, yeah, and also you find that most people in Matabeleland are coming from a culture of people who are not voting, people who are not registering to vote. And as young people, we learn through observation, we learn through what we see, we learn through what we hear. And there comes that point where you are the one now who's supposed to register to vote. Is there a point in actually participating in that process? So yeah, I think those are the reasons.
Building on to what you're saying, would you say that is there any engagement or inclusivity when it comes to civil institutions, when it comes to political institutions, whereby the young people, women and girls are being involved in the electoral process? Do we have young people who are actually at the hierarchy of the political institutions, at the hierarchy of civil institutions?
The Zimbabwe in which we find ourselves in, there is a certain criteria of young people. And that is probably 35 to 45. That is the criteria of young people who find themselves in the hierarchies or who find themselves involved in political issues. Whereas we have these 18-year-olds to 25-year-olds who find themselves at home because, one, they're told that they're not qualified enough to be part of those processes. They have not had enough experience to be part of those processes. They've not had enough experience to be part of the structures that govern electoral processes. So I wouldn't say that genuinely there are young people participating fully in the hierarchy of electoral processes and participating in effective electoral processes. I don't think they are there.
Mr. Ndlovu, a little bit it tells me that you're good with numbers. In terms of the political institutions and the civil institutions, how much can you say the young people are being involved in these institutions here in Matabeleland?
Thank you very much. I'm only good in maths, school mathematics. Thank you so much. Yeah, what I can say is that, especially in the civic space, there are quite a number of organizations, youth-led organizations, where we believe young persons have a chance to go and participate there or get involved. But what I'm realizing is that to actually crop in young people to participate on issues of elections or electoral processes comes down that thinking of saying, how is it going to benefit me? And at times we look at it and say, why they say that is because maybe at times the institution that I'm talking about, even the NYTT that we have here and a lot other that I have, I think we have more than 15 here in Bulawayo, that have electoral programs for young persons. You will discover what, there isn't much information that is going out there to the young persons, whether in terms of voter education or what. And coupled by the attitude of young persons, again, who do not want to involve themselves by saying, like Zanzibar was saying, into Zabatala, the election is for the older people and so on, those who died for this country. So why should we get involved? And then we also have this thing called Injiva syndrome, or the diaspora attitude, where, like Zanzibar was saying, by the time the election comes, I would have gone anyway. Who will I elect? So if you hear a young person talking about that, you get to know that there is an information gap that is there amongst young persons. So I think what we can encourage these institutions is to make sure they, I don't know whether I could say load the young persons with information, because they don't just even interested to receive information. Like we are here, if we had a very big audience of young persons, most of them will be on social media. So they actually need a diverse way of getting that information on electoral processes and electoral participation.
Okay. From what I'm getting from Dodana is that we have youth who are participating in civil institutions and the civil societies. What of the political organizations? Are we seeing them, the main political party, that is the ZANU-PF, we have the CCC, we have the MDCT. How is the participation of the in those political parties?
I think it's very low because unfortunately the political environment is just marred with violence. So you find that so many young people just want or choose to distance themselves, when it comes to politics, or even, being part of party A or party B. So yes, they are there, but it's not something that we can say is of a high magnitude. It's not something that we can say, oh, there are a lot of young people who are, in party A or party B. They have these amazing positions and all that stuff. It's just one or two, a handful here and there. So yeah, I think a lot of work has to be done in that regard, because young people are not there. Or if they are there, in some cases they are for decoration. Like, oh yeah, they are young people, but what are they doing there? You're just there to show, I know we have young people, but you're not really,
Is what we are getting from is we have low participation of the young people in the political parties. Are the political parties coming to you for them to get maybe their voices heard, to welcome the young people? Are there any writings which are welcoming the young people into political parties or into the civil society institutions?
Well, I think I would differ a bit because I don't believe that there are no young people in political parties. I mean, young people have always been there in political parties. The violence that you see around is driven by young people. The question is, why do they go there? They go there for njengu or other cheap beer so that they get drunk and beat people, get a two-piece of this and that. So if young people don't then demand to get positions, they will always be instruments of violence. The people that are old now, at one point they were young. I mean, 1980, Emerson Mnangagwa was 56. Parents Shiri, when he started Kukura Hundi and his comrades, they were 26. I think Joyce Mujuru was the youngest minister at around 21 or so. So these guys, because they've enjoyed, then they don't want to, give other people a chance. If you go to any of these political parties, be it ZANU, be it CCC, you will find the youth wing, and you find lots of youths making noise each time there is a rally. But they don't want to register. They don't want to go to their leaders and demand that they should be part of the process. So young people should be saying, nothing for us without us. So why should they be participating to just take other people to parliament to then come back driving big cars when they don't benefit? What do they benefit? All what they do is to cause violence, beat each other up, end up in jail or end up dead. So they are there, but their priorities are somewhere else.
Maybe going on to the guys who are in the live audience right now, maybe one of you can actually pick on the reasons why we are having voter apathy in terms of voter registration here in Matabeleland. What has been the moment to be like? How is the situation here in Matabeleland? Maybe coming from the young people to the young people will make a difference.
I think there are a number of things which contribute to voter apathy. Number one, it's an issue to do with political violence. It's an issue to do with political violence. Number two, because we have seen, for example, here in Matabeleland, the mysterious state-sponsored disappearance of young people. In the case study of Tawanda Mcheiwa. So these are some of the factors which put a pressure to young people, or which in a way discourage young people to participate in the voting process. Number two is an issue of saying Zimbabwe on its own is not a country which is ripe for young people. It's not a country which is ready to welcome young people. Because if you follow even current trends, you realize that even today, I think the new parliament officially is now finished, the new parliament. But we realize that in the same parliament, like in the old parliament that they were renting, we realize that we have people like all the guys in there. They've spent almost 15 years. They are preparing even to spend another years in power. It's because those people are prepared to make sure that no young people replace them. They are prepared even to invest a lot of money into making sure that the young people stay as they are, so that they enjoy future benefits. I think those are some of the reasons which contribute to voter apathy.
All right, maybe building on to what he's saying, the issue of people who want to remain in power, would you say that maybe the structures in political parties, maybe here in Matabeleland, are not really welcoming to the young people? Would you say that, Nodan?
I won't really go along with that assertion. Because my belief is that the old people are there because the young people are supporting them to be there. When you become part, let me say, change comes with participation. If you drag away from participation and then you think other people will institute change for you, it won't happen. So if young people want young people in positions, they have to come up, register, and they use that constitutional tool to decide, because to your vote is your voice, to decide whom they want to be, where he or she is supposed to be. We often say that young people say, who will we vote for? For example, if you look at this panel, supposing it was a panel of old people, and they will be voted by them. But why can't they lift themselves from where they are and come and be the candidates?
Right. Yeah, there is a great question there, but then what what we have been noticing are the structures who are in political parties welcoming to the young people, or it's like the Great Wall of China there?
Within these political parties, there are youth wings, isn't it? Mm-hmm. And there's the women's wing and there's the main wing. I think the problem becomes political consciousness. Look at the young person of 1980 and the young person of 2022. Today, being the 28th of June, you actually celebrate the death of Nikita Mangena. Nikita Mangena died at 33 and he was the commander of ZIPRA. When did he join the struggle? And if you look at these guys that I was talking about, when they went to war, how old were they? 12-year-olds, 13-year-olds were crossing, going to Botswana to join the war. But right now, if you were to look for a 33-year-old, probably is preparing to go to a club and to go and dance some pianos. So as long as we think Amapiano will change our society, we have a problem. So it's about political consciousness more than anything else.
William, would you share the same sentiments?
No. We find that young people are relegated to the periphery of political parties. They are kept under a leash. Young people are not allowed to move up to certain roles, because the moment they move up to certain roles, it is called a faction. This is the language that we know in Zimbabwe, that the moment a young person or the moment a certain group that is not in the top level of the hierarchy tries to get to the top, it becomes a faction. And we have seen that before, and we have seen even students protesting, students stating out the basics of what we need as a country, as young people. But we constantly find that they are shut down. They are shut down, they are arrested, students disappear. And fear is a deterrent. We are young and we are not naive as well. Fear is a deterrent to certain things. Young people will not just go rushing into these political parties seeking positions, because they know that the consequences of this are death and so on. And we come from families where these people have experienced have certain experiences of political violence, and constantly you are reminded that should you try to do this, the result is not going to be good. You are going to die, you are going to disappear, we are going to die, the house is going to be burnt, So I don't think young people don't want to take part in politics. I don't think young people do not want to be part of the hierarchy of political parties. I just don't think that political parties are ready to accept the brilliance that is in young people. They are not ready to accept the energy that young people have. They are not ready to accept what young people are ready to contribute. Yeah.
Right. The young people, are they being given a chance at the structures? Or maybe you can give us a different view by telling us how are the structures, the political structures here? Are they like more youth-led? Are they more with the old people? What kind of structures are we having currently in Matabeleland?
Oh, okay. With that one, I'm afraid I'll probably have to pass the baton to someone else on that one, because I really don't want to be accused of yeah.
Yeah, it's very difficult to talk on behalf of a political party and what happens internally. As an organization, we do what we call observation of elections, but we are also not able to observe primary elections that happen within political parties. But what I can say, whilst I agree with William that structures may be closed and hostile and everything, but in Zimbabwe it is possible for young persons to form their own political party, because basically there is nothing that is required other than your age and your registration status. So when I'm saying this from my own perspective, I've never been inside a political party, but the way he puts it, it's correct, very correct. But now you to realize what the structures that are closing them out are structures of all the people, as he might put it. Like Zendra was saying, there's youth wing, whatever. But they still have an opportunity to participate. If you take part, then you move away from the old people, form your own political party, vote, pick up your own candidates, send them for nomination, and vote for them. Run behind them. Because you will never be a director if you want to be employed by ZZ.
Yeah, So good. Maybe going back to our live audience here, would you say you're getting equal opportunities to be in the political structures here in Matabeleland? Is there any chance of you, or the walls are too high for you to climb through? Maybe you can tell us your experience, maybe trying into getting into the political structures.
What I think is, if we are to talk of young people, yes, there is a chance. But the problem comes on the definition of young people, the definition of old people. If we look at the definition, in some cases, young people are regarded being young at the age of 45 to 50, or at the age of 45 to rather 60. So at the end of the day, the eye which we are looking into would show that young people are being given the chance, but yet the reality would be the young people would not be given the chance as according to the age of the youth from the age of around 18 to 25. The chances in realistics would imply that young people are not being given the chance. Why are we saying so? It's because we're being shut down due to the fact that upon the exposure to such posts or such opportunity, we excel and we become a threat to those up high. So they would try to suppress us and not give us the chance. That's what I think.
All right. Yeah. So amongst the reasons that you were saying earlier on, someone said the issue of voter registration centers being not as close as possible, and we also noted the issue of identity documents. Has there been any rectification towards that? Because we still need those people who had already registered in the previous elections to be able to go and register come 2023, but they cannot do this if they do not have identity documents. How has been the identity, the initiation process, like since after the closure of the voter registration period? Yeah, maybe I'll start with you, Stay.
Okay. Unfortunately, we have, what can I say? I can't call them remnants, but then we have Kukuraundi and its rippling effects. So you find that someone is, a grandchild to someone who was unfortunately, a victim. So you find that there's no documentation, like how many generations down. So for you to actually get that help, sometimes it's very difficult. Though sometimes we have traditional leaders and the chiefs coming in probably to help, but then I find that that's still a problem, especially in Matabeleland. So when you really trace it back, you find that it's always, in most cases, if it's very difficult to actually access, it will be because of that.
What are the numbers saying in terms of getting identity documentation? Are we having any progress? Because we want people who have actually registered before and who managed to register this year and last year to be able to go and vote.
Yeah, in terms of the civic records, I think of late the government did something. I don't know they call it a police or what, where Registrar General has been out since the 1st of April, and the map, I think, up to around September. But I don't know how the program is progressing out there. And I hear that they relaxed conditions of getting the identity documents to an extent that somebody was telling me from RG that if 5 people come into the office, father, mother, children, whatever, and they witness for each other to say, yes, these 2 are my children, and so on, to run away from the Kukuraundi ripple effects, then they are registered in this exercise that is running currently. And I think they even run overnight, I don't know. So far, I cannot tell or say whether people are registering or not, because we haven't received such figures that have been shared publicly. But on top of that, when you talk about registration, you can have an ID, a birth certificate and an ID, but somebody might not opt to register to vote. This is where the challenge comes, whereby you will notice, for example, in Bulawayo in 2017, 2018, basing on the previous census, they expected about 400 and something people to register to vote, but only 200 and something thousand registered. Come this blitz now, where Zimbabwe Electoral Commission also had about 2 phases of the blitz, I think. It was such an incredible low figure that also came out to an extent of maybe, I think around Bulawayo, less than 20,000 people registered. Come figures, maybe census will tell us we are now 1 million in Bulawayo, compared to 200 and something thousand that are registered. You can tell that the upper is still there. But whether it's an issue of documents now or it's coupled with other reasons, we don't know. But generally, you should also know that because of historic events that happened in Matebeleland, most of the people that we expect to register here, quite a number of them of my age, are not even in this country. And they see no value in coming back to choose you or me as a leader, because we have done nothing for them.
There's one issue that keeps popping up, the issue of Gukurawundi. Zenzele, from your writings, should we say Gukurawundi is still a strong factor that is affecting civic participation?
Well, it is. The comrade was talking about fear. So the fear comes from Gukurawundi because people have disappeared before, people have died. So there is a strong element of fear amongst people. Then there is also the element of saying, but why should I bother to vote? Because anyway, you know, one party would win, so it doesn't matter even if I vote. And then the issue of, so people don't trust the whole system of voting. They somehow think that the results are already predetermined. Someone will tell you that we already know the results for 2023, so why should I waste my energy? Then, of course, there is the issue of documentation, where some people don't have documents, but in this case, even those who have documents are not interested in voting. So the fact that in Zimbabwe, the elections are violent makes people, think twice when it comes to voter registration, participating, and also people have been voting since 1980. What has changed in their lives? And even if we say people have been voting since 2000, when I left school, people were saying things are going to be okay tomorrow. I'm now counting years to retirement, and people are this thing. So why should I bother voting? So that's what young people are saying. So there's no reason to vote. Yeah.
William, amongst the young people, do they still reflect on the horrific happenings of the Gukurawundi when it comes to election processes?
Well, I wouldn't say they would reflect on the Gukurawundi per se, but they come from families that have experienced Gukurawundi. And those stories constantly deter them, especially people from Matebeleland. You find a lot of tribalism, as it is called, and you ask yourself, where is it coming from? But these are people who have constantly been hearing stories of what people from Mashonaland did to people in Matebeleland. And some of the stories are so inhumane, you end up asking yourself, are these people who actually committed these crimes, Yeah. And then on another note, just to go back on reasons why people are not registering to vote. We're looking at young people, and the church is constantly talking about this, the synodality. And the Archdiocese of Harare, in its questionnaires, has a question that specifically asks about the realities of young people. Where are the young people found? And currently, because of the economy, young people are working. and would call it ngwava. They are always looking for money. So what time do they have to look for a registration site in order to register to vote? And then it also points to the fact that these are people who, as I said earlier, do not feel that they belong, or their vote or whatever they do does not contribute to the betterment of Zimbabwe as a whole. So yeah, I think these are factors that need to be taken into consideration when we look at the reasons why young people are not registering to vote.
The mathematics guy, I would want to call it. Recently we have had a lot about the delimitation process, but to some it's just a word that we do not even know what it means, what its effects are, what has been the delimitation process, what is it, and should we be worried about it?
Thank you very much. Yeah, I think as Zimbabweans, we, at this time of the year, we really need to be worried about the process of delimitation, because this is where all the, let me say, the outcome of an election, maybe the 2023 election that we are looking forward to, would rest on. When we talk about delimitation, we are talking about creating places where people are going to be voting. And these places, we simply call them the constituencies, the wards, or the polling stations. So when we talk about delimitation, we are talking about drawing these, or drawing the boundaries of these areas. Fair and fine, the constitutionally mandated to do that. And for ZEC to do that, they are also constitutionally mandated to utilize the population of only registered voters. So at times people have a misconception to say, maybe the census said there are so many people, but the CAM constituencies were given 5. How come that way? So what happens is that after registering people, ZEC uses that population to draw these boundaries. And they constitutionally allocate the number of constituencies based on the number of registered voters in that particular area, say Matebeleland North, or let us say Bulawayo Metropolitan. And for ZEC to do that, they use 210 as the total number of constituencies that are constitutional to be in Zimbabwe. So the Constitution says Zimbabwe shall have 210 constituencies. That figure is fixed, that figure is low, and for each constituency to be called a constituency, there should be at least 27,000 plus or minus 20% registered people in that particular area. Let us take, for example, we are here, I think we are in Bulawayo South, if I'm not wrong, Bulawayo South constituency. People in Bulawayo South constituency are supposed to be at least 27 plus or minus. Where does ZEC get that number? ZEC get that number from dividing the total number of registered voters in the country by 210. Basing on the previous registration, we had about 5.6 million registered voters divided by 210. You will land around 26.6. Then ZEC uses a threshold of 20% plus or minus that figure. So meaning that a constituency have on average 22,000 to 33,000 if my mathematics is okay. So for a constituency, because it should have that range. So if people are not registered satisfactorily to get to that figure, then you will notice that some constituencies will be bigger than others, and the others will be smaller than, or the size of it, because of the number of people that are registering. What are the benefits that we get? I will just speak of two, my colleagues will add. The development in Zimbabwe, let me say, is based on politics, or is based on political activity, such that for us to get, for example, they call the SDF or the CDF, the CDF fund, I think you know it very well, that is given to every elected member. So the more members you have in your province, the more money comes. But if you have few, those few will share a little cake, but the area will be very big. I usually give an example of Kauterpark. I'm just praying Kauterpark will be a constituency because it's ranging around 30-something registered voters alone as a Ward 28. So it means that the CDF that used to come to Luveve constituency will now only go to Kauterpark. So those are some of the benefits. And the second one that I would say that with more representatives in a province, we have more power, more effect, more, I don't know, up there at the parliamentary level. So if we are discussing developmental issues, we are many coming from Matebeleland. Than if we don't register, there will be few of our representatives going up for decision making.
Thank you. That is quite a clear explanation of it. But would you agree to say maybe it could mean further marginalization if we allow the delimitation process?
Oh, yeah. Especially if, the constituencies are moving from a high number to a low number, which also means that there's less representation. So looking at service delivery, that's just going to go down because now we don't have enough funds to cater for the whole, So in that case, there's also marginalization because people are not being represented adequately. So it will lead to marginalization.
Zenzele, maybe you can pick on the implications of the delimitation process on women.
Well, I'm not sure how it can affect women only because it will affect everyone. It mainly also it will affect the opposition more because we know the opposition tends to win in urban areas and in Matebeleland. So if Bulawayo right now is 12 constituencies and people decided not to vote, to register to vote like they did, it means Bulawayo can lose at least 2 constituencies. And those 2 constituencies can pop up in Uzumba, where there are more registered voters. So already that is a great loss to the opposition because instead of getting 12 MPs in Bulawayo, they're going to get 10. And this voter apathy, if it happens in Mat North, Mat South, where they sometimes get a number of MPs, then it means they will have less number of MPs. If they have less constituencies, it means there will be more for being MPs. So we are 2 MPs less. Someone who's an MP now would have to fight harder for them to be an MP. And therefore, if a woman, then probably you are not going to be an MP. Because the problem with the Zimbabwean politics, from primary elections, they use money, they use a bit of power, there's fighting, there's bribing that is involved. And most of the times, women are disadvantaged in that because they don't have the bouncers, they don't have the youths to hire, to fight for them, or rig their elections in the primary elections. So it's people are going to fight for fewer positions. And it will apply, same applies to the PR system. So that means the women who get represented by the PR system then reduce.
William, is there anything that is coming from the church in terms of the delimitation process? Is the church airing out its voice? Because Matebeleland South already, or the whole of Matebeleland province is affected by this delimitation process.
Well, I think we'd have to wait for the bishops to give a statement on that in order to be guided. But I believe the church continues to support the constitutional right of every individual. Its social teachings promote human dignity. And if the delimitation process threatens the dignity of individuals, the church definitely has to speak out against it. because it is against that principle of human dignity.
Going to the live audience here with us, I would want to know, how is the young people, are you going to be affected by this delimitation process? Do you think this is the right thing to do for the young people, and as people who interact with maybe people with disabilities, is it coming as a plus or it's a minus to the young people and people living with disabilities?
I think the delimitation process affects everyone, young and old. But it goes back to the issue of voter apathy. Because each and every time when we head to an election, it's Blawayo that suffers. So it's Blawayo that suffers. So I think for the young people, they are supposed to think that whenever we are about to go to an election, they are supposed to think in terms of how are we going to make sure that Blawayo this time doesn't suffer. Blawayo gains instead of losing each and every time we go to a delimitation process. Because because as I was saying, even when that was the thing that was said by Sensei, when he says the old people went to war, the old people, Emerson was around 30 when he goes to that. But we have seen this. I hope I won't be misquoted. We have seen that is during that time, it was not by their choice. It was not because of their political enlightenment, but it was by force. Because it's a situation of war. War is a matter of life and death. War is a matter of saying whether you like it or not, go to war. So which means it's a tired narrative for the old to blame the young for not being what they want them to be. Because number one, it's them that are blocking the system. It's them that are blocking the entry of young people into the political dimensions. It's them that are blocking the young people, or them that are cascading the issue of voter apathy, because they, in their right sense, they've tried to make sure that they've closed the gap. They've tried to make sure that they close any opportunity for young people. So this on its own, it means that it's a bunch of opportunists who, by virtue of being there, not by virtue of them wanting to go, have gotten the privilege to go to war, have come back, claim that we are the custodian of this. They have managed to attain positions. They have now they are in those positions. Power is sweet. So they've tried to enjoy that sweetness for so long, and they want to enjoy it further. So in trying to do that, they have managed to close all doors for the young people. So this has also led to where we are. It has also over the years led to a situation where the region of Bulawayo continue to lose in terms of constituents, while its other continue to gain. But it's because of one fact. It's because of young people are not registering to vote. But if they want to vote, are there opportunities for them? Why would they vote? Is the other question. I think that's the submission that I have.
Wow, deep thoughts and deep sentiments coming from a young person there. We have been having a very interactive and good discussion. I would love to get your sum up of the program, starting from you, William.
Okay, I would just like to say that young people continue to have a voice, they continue to have dreams, they continue to have hopes. And it is very important that young people register to vote in order to have the opportunity to vote. And I would also like to say that it is also necessary and it is needed that people in power open up to the idea of young people taking up positions, taking up space. Because I believe that young people are not just being educated to sit and watch, but if you give them the right to education, it means they also have an obligation to contribute to the politics of the country, to contribute to the economy. And it's the future. Young people are the future. They are the now, actually. They should start now in order to prepare for the future. Yeah.
Thank you.
Well, I think I would say every generation has a challenge and a task to better their situation. I mean, now if we are in church, I mean, Jesus started preaching when he was 12. The question is, how old were his disciples? But at that time, they were gatekeepers still, who were there, the pastors of that time, who felt the young man was being, overzealous. But still, he managed to do what he did. I mean, Cecil John Rhodes was 17 when he came to Zimbabwe and started the British South Africa Company. I've talked to the other guys that have gone to war. So there is always going to be a gatekeeper. There will always be someone, where there is power and where there is money, someone will always make sure that you don't have access. But it takes a generation to say, we have had enough and we are going to change our situation. So we can cry until Jesus comes. Nothing will change. But if young people decide to say, you know what, we have had enough, we are going to do something about it, they are going to be listened to. So if young people don't want to register, they don't want to vote, they don't want to participate, nothing will change.
Interesting. Okay, mine is to the young active citizens out there who have been privileged, to have the knowledge that enables them to participate effectively in electoral processes. I just want to say kudos to you guys, but let's just continue encouraging our peers, because yes, delimitation is here, there's nothing we can do about it, but let's encourage each other to turn out and not only just register to vote, but also cast our votes on election day. That is very important. It is your constitutional right. So let's just use it. It's for free. Yeah.
For me, my last words to the young persons is that if you are listening now, go out there, go and encourage all those that have turned 18, who hold a Zimbabwean ID card and a valid passport, to visit ZEC provincial and district office dotted across the country, and they be part and parcel of the fight for change, part and parcel of the change that you want it to be. There is no way you can have that change unless you use the constitutional right that you were given after turning 18. And without that, nothing else at the moment can give you the change that you desire. Let's go and register to vote, and they also participate in voting. Let's be candidates, even presidential candidates. I know somebody was saying they are youth at 40. So if you are a youth at 40, you are eligible to be a president. Go for it.
Thank you very much. On June 1976, we had the Soweto massacre where thousands of young people died. They died for their constitutional right, fighting for apartheid in South Africa. As the young people here in Zimbabwe, we can still do it. If they did it, we can do it too. From Pray, Register, Vote, the National Movement of Catholic Students, and our proud sponsors, the Conrad Adner Think Tank, and the crew behind the scenes. My name is Rashonera. Till we meet again.